Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Raw Daddy Hour, hosted by yours truly, Raw Daddy himself. This is your grandmama's favorite podcast. Y'all already know what it is. And today's episode is being sponsored by Glass Block Express. If you're in the Detroit area and you need some glass block, these are your guys. To my left, I want to introduce you guys to my guest that I have today. I have Miss Nataly back on the podcast, and you already know the drip god, Mr. Shad himself. Competition today for the drip title.
The squirrel is hot right now.
It's about to catch on fire.
Bro, it's dripping. So, today we're going to be talking about toxicity in relationships. How do we deal with it? How do we notice it, right? What are some of the red flags that might pop up? And what can we do if we find ourselves in a toxic relationship? So I'm going to start off a little different today. Shad, I'm going to start with you. Has there ever been a time in your life where you were the toxic person in a relationship?
Of course, yeah. I think everybody has a bit of toxicity in them, to be honest. A lot of people aren't really comfortable with admitting that. But for me, definitely. And it's something that, honestly, I'm continuing to navigate throughout relationships that I have with people. I feel like that's something that you need to come to terms with, because there are times where you might not be a toxic person or on all the time, but there are times where everyone shows traits of toxicity. So being able to identify those things and having the necessary tools to kind of check yourself and realign yourself and make sure that you are, doing right by the relationships that you're in are super important. So, yeah.
Nataly, I'd ask you the same question.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think that people trigger some point in your life that the toxicity comes out. And I mean, especially in relationships with a close partner, that person can trigger this toxicity in you, and it just runs like rapid fire. So definitely I have been.
Yeah, I agree with it's something that you just work through. I have had times in my life where I was way more toxic. I've had times in my life where I was maybe just a stomach ache. You know what I mean? The toxicness not gonna kill you, but it just might upset your stomach a little bit. So, yeah, it's definitely a work in progress. We all do have some toxic traits, and I will say this too. I think depending on the person that you're matched with, that might be more flammable than other people, right? There might be some toxic traits that you have that's not as big of a deal to someone, and then to someone else it's like, end of the world. So Nataly, I'll kick it your way. What did you do when you found yourself in these toxic relationships?
I had to step back. From myself. And just walk away and explain to them, because when you leave a relationship without explaining why you're leaving, they think it's themselves, and sometimes it's you. So you got to explain, hey, this is actually making me worse than better, so I need to leave this. It's not necessary. It sounds cliche. It's not you, it's me. It's making me worse, so I can't be a good person to you. And at the end of the day, we're both gonna end up hurting each other. So just step back and walk away if you have to.
I think that's a very valid point, the it's not you, it's me thing. And I get that some people kind of go to that as a scapegoat, but it's very real at times. And kind of like how we mentioned on the mental health piece, when someone brings you that kind of information, you got to respect it. I honestly respect you more if you tell me like, hey, yo, I got to step away because I don't feel that I could be the adequate partner or friend that I should be. So I have to step back in order to spare both of us, to keep the peace. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't respect. When you bring that to them, it's kind of just one of those things where it's like, nah, you must be doing something. There must be something else wrong. And it's like, nah,
there must be somebody else.
I'm messed up. Like I can't be what you need me to be, so that means I need to, kind of step off. Shad, what kind of interactions have you had in the toxic nature?
I think I want to start by saying I think the two of the most important things in a relationship are communicating and actively listening. I feel like those two things are like at the top of the list when it comes to like having a healthy relationship. For me specifically, it was I can be overbearing sometimes to the point where it appears as shaming. Kind of like just my competitive, and just like I'm a person who, when I get in routine, it's like that's all I see. So when I'm dating someone and they're having troubles with staying on a routine or doing something that they say they're going to do and seeing it through, I had a tendency to like beat that person down. So what I had to do was and this person was communicating this to me, but I wasn't listening. I wasn't hearing it. And again, it was in my early 20s, mid 20s, and it came a point where I was like, yo, I need to start listening to what people are saying to me and take a step back and really use that information and figure out what do I need to do to change my behavior in a relationship? How can I be better for this person?
So that's a part of growth too, because that's sometimes you feel attacked when somebody's trying to explain to you because they paid attention to you very, very close, because they love you. They have more like an intimacy relationship with you. So when they're trying to speak to you, just because you feel like they're attacking you, you're like, you shut down, you don't want to listen. You're like, why are you attacking me? Because you should know me better than anybody else. But actually, yeah, they know you better than anybody else, so they're trying to explain to you. Yeah. So it's just, like you said, getting to actively listen.
Nataly, is there a toxic trait that you could point to that you actively work, or maybe you're not over it completely, but something that you identified in yourself that you're like, okay, this is an issue?
I actually have been working on it a lot. I overly communicate. It's good to communicate, but sometimes you overly communicate because sometimes those people are not there yet to listen to that. They're not yet there to understand. So when you overly communicate, like again, they can feel attacked, or they can feel some sort of way, like pressure, and you don't want to pressure your partner.
I got you. Okay.
So it's getting to understand, hey, you need to stop here. They can't take this. You can't water this. They had enough.
And it goes back to like what you said too, is like the pairings. Like, if you're with a person who can take that amount of over communication, over stimulation. Some people, like, they get overwhelmed when you're telling them so much stuff. I know sometimes I get like that. Like, I'm like, all right, yo, like, relax. You're doing too much now. Like, I hear you. I got you.
Yeah.
Like, it just takes me a little while to process.
Yeah.
But definitely, like, I think the pairings and who you're with, your different relationships, you can bring different levels of, your toxic trait into that. Because I know another big like red flag, as they so say, is like sarcasm or like joking. Some people can't take jokes, and they get, their self-esteem, it's not where, yours is. So your jokes may come off as, degrading or something like that. Whereas to you, you don't really see it as that. So again, like you said, those pairings are super, super important when you're looking at, dealing with different types of relationships.
Yeah, if you can't take a joke, you cannot be my friend. Like, bruh, I'm ruthless with it. I am so ruthless with it. But I would say my most toxic trait that I've been trying to work on, and it's tough for me, is I crave a lot of space. What I've been told is that, and I don't mean to do it, and I don't think this way, but what I've been told is you make me feel like I'm an option. You make me feel like I am not a priority to you, that I am like easily replaceable, right? And it's because, like, for me, I wouldn't necessarily say over communicating is a problem, because I like information. I like criticism. I love, like, like we will sit down and break down a shoot that we've done for hours, because I just love to know, like, what I'm not doing good, like what can I fix. But I am someone who gets overly stimulated with too much interaction. Like, if I'm just around people, like after this, I'm going to be quiet as hell for 3 days straight, because it's just a lot. Like, it's asking me to do a lot. So I've been working on, like, how do I communicate that feeling? Because I've never known how to voice it, because no one else that I've known does it. And I'm just like, how do I make somebody feel wanted but also understand that I don't want to be around you right now. And that's like a weird line to walk, you know, because I do enjoy my alone time after being out and about and doing all this stuff.
Is it physical space or emotional space?
Both.
Both.
Both. Because for me,
And
like, so.
And why?
I think it's like you said before, a me problem. Because when I'm physically around someone that I love, I feel obligated to be also emotionally involved. So
that's your feeling.
That's my
Yeah.
feeling. So like
okay.
I put that on myself.
Okay,
It's like
I
I
got
can't just sit here and like, because I feel like I'm making you feel like trash. So I would be like, okay, let's just not have you in that equation so I don't make you feel that way. So maybe that's something else I got to work on. But yeah, that's probably my biggest trait is like making women feel like I don't care when I really do. Because when I'm there, I'm super involved. Like I'm like all in, but I do also need that detox time. Like that is like very important to me. That's why I don't work out with people a lot, because I'm like, that's like the 1-2 hours that motherfuckers don't bother me. It's like the only time in the day that people are not bothering me. So yeah, I think that would be my trait that I've been working on since little. Like since I was little, I can remember being at family outings, or like people would always come to my mom's house for holidays, and they'd be there for like 5-6 hours or whatever. We cook, do all this stuff, and by like hour 3, I'm upstairs on the computer by myself with my headphones in, and I'm just like away from everybody. And they're like, "Where did he go?" I just can't do it. Like it's just too much people time.
You just gotta find the right person, though.
Yeah.
That's true.
what
Yeah,
it
that is true.
Yeah.
They'll understand that you need
Yeah.
your space.
I've had some that are better than others, right? So that goes back to those pairings. But yeah, no, I agree. So let me go to you, Natalie. What about, how do you pick up on these red flags in other people? You said you're a communicator. So how do you pick up on these red flags with other people and then communicate their toxicity to them?
It's actually a bad thing, because I go back to the things that I've been through, and when I see that happening, I'm like, definitely in my mind, red flag. And I used to keep it to myself, but then again, I noticed that when I keep it to myself, they will never know, and then they will assume. So now I just voice it, and when I voice it, I try to voice it in a way that I can explain my feeling, how you're making me feel, but also, can I understand why are you acting like this? Let me understand why you're doing this, because I don't want to assume that you're going to do the same thing that's triggering my red flag. So it's communicating in a way where I can listen to them and why they're doing that, and not judge why they're doing it, because it might not be the same red flag that I had before.
Yeah, no, that's true. Shad, how do you deal with toxicity in others? I mean, I know you said you could be overbearing and you can kind of stomp them out, but you can't always do that if you want the relationship to succeed. So
I think, again, like, communication is like the super important thing, because that's the only thing that you can control. The listening part is on the other person. So when something is not going right, or something doesn't sit well, or you see a red flag, like for me, I tend to just speak my mind, and again, one of my other toxic traits is the way that I communicate. I'm from Jersey, so like a lot of times, like,
Yo.
my shit come off really rough, really rough and raw. So it's like, you know what I mean? So being able to kind of like check that and try to relay information and deliver information in a different way is something that I continue. Like I've gotten so much better. Like in college, and like when I used to be like super rough around the edges, like with how I communicated stuff when things weren't right. So now you just gotta plate it just a different way so it looks presentable and they can easily digest it.
It's the same chicken and potatoes.
And then it's the same chicken and potatoes. I like that.
Me too.
But the other thing is, like, for me, like, understanding that it's not just a one-time thing. It may not be a one-time thing. It may be something that you have to communicate over time. Mm-hmm. And you have to understand that, people, you need to give people time to grow. Yes. You need to give people time to grow. So understanding those things has really kind of put me in a better space in this point in my life.
So speaking on giving people time to grow. How much time is too much? You know what I mean? Because you can voice your opinion, right? You know, the first time it's kind of like, oh, dang, it's kind of jarring. It's like, all right, damn, I didn't know I was doing that. Or they knew they were doing it, but they're just like, damn, you noticed it. You said something, right? So that first time it's kind of like, okay, I kind of expect this to happen again, maybe at a smaller capacity. But when it becomes too much, when do you start to realize, Shad, I'll go with you first. When do you start to realize, like, okay, this person's not changing, and then what do you do about that?
I think you need to do like a self-assessment and like really say to yourself, okay, when is this becoming emotionally draining, and when is it starting to negatively impact my life? When those two things start happening, then you got to start making some decisions on what it is that you're going to do. Are you going to, because again, like if you can sit back and say, okay, I've done everything I can to salvage this relationship with this person, and this is not just like, you know, husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend. This is any type of relationship, co-workers, bosses, jobs, friendships, whatever. When you're able to sit back and say, okay, I feel like I've done everything that I possibly can to salvage this relationship and nothing has changed, then you need to step away. And you have to be okay with stepping away. And I think that's where people tend to run into problems, is people can't emotionally disconnect. Yes. So that I don't really have an answer to, because everyone's different, you know, but finding out what it is that you need to do to emotionally disconnect from somebody and just live your life without that person, or even if it's not like for instance, parents. And I'm gonna be very fully transparent. One of the toxic relationships in my life is the relationship I have with my mother. So it's like, it's one of those things where like, if I'm further away from her and I don't communicate to her often, our relationship is way better. If I'm close to her, if I'm talking to her on a regular basis, it's not good. And I've had conversations, I've had arguments over the years with my mom about just our relationship, and that's just what it is. But for that one, it's like, you can't emotionally disconnect from your mom completely.
Definitely can't.
You know,
Mom,
exactly. You
I
know,
birthed you, child.
Exactly.
Block her on Instagram.
Exactly. And I love my mother to death. But again, creating emotional distance is better for me, and just my well-being. Like, being able to emotionally disconnect is just what I need for that relationship. So again, what you need to do for everyone is different. So.
Kind of like what you said about the different relationships and how kind of you have to treat them. And that kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier about like setting healthy boundaries. I feel like if it's a actual relationship, right, like a romantic relationship, there can still be healthy boundaries that are set. And then, like you said, give yourself that self-reflection and just be like, all right, what's the pros and the cons? Like, what type of person will I be 3 years from now if I stay with this person? What kind of person will I be if I let this person go? Can I demote them to friendship, right? Is that even possible? Or does it need to just be a clean break? We both wish each other well, and then we, continue on with our lives. I do agree that a lot of people have that issue with being able to emotionally disconnect from something, really step back and kind of like, all right, what are we doing here, right? And that's something that I got too good at one point, to where I could cut people off in an instant. And what that did was like, I wasn't giving people the time to grow. It was like, oh, no, I'm out of here. And I could just cut it real quick. And I think that's kind of, you got to find that sweet spot where it's like, all right, you gave him a week, bro.
Somebody checked me on that too. Like,
yeah.
I thought I was like, my emotional disconnect game was like immaculate, but then someone checked me, was like, yo, that's not like, that's toxic. That's
it
toxic as hell, bro.
It's like an emotional disconnection. It's a trauma, actually. You're moving based on trauma. So how are you gonna get into a relationship with trauma in it? Like, I was quickly like, nah, we're done. Like, I wouldn't even give him time, and I could never see anything through, because I'm a runner. Let me tell you that. Like, I'm here dating, and then okay, no, I see this, tip, take off. Nah, we're done. Not even explanation or anything. So it's a trauma. You have to see things through to see if they're actually gonna grow, and also see if like you mentioned, your time. Like, is this gonna make me better? Oh, it's not making me any better. It's making me worse. I'm feeling this. I'm losing myself. Let me just disconnect.
You brought up a great point about it being very trauma related. And I think another piece to that emotional disconnection is being able to disconnect from past experiences. Not bringing 7 relationships into this one. It's like, bro, I don't need that. Ain't chicken and potatoes no more. You done brought me the whole Thanksgiving spread, and it's like that's too much, right? So, how do you guys deal with that? Nataly, I'll go with you first because you've been through some things with relationships. How do you come in fresh to a new one? Like you said, that can make you a runner. You have a couple bad experiences. Look, you're gonna become Usain Bolt in these relationships. You're gonna get up out of there. So how do you deal with what happened in the past, and maybe somebody might have a little sprinkle of the same trigger, and you try to give them that time. So how do you deal with that?
So it's just been recently I've been like, just let me see things through. I sit there and try to see, am I doing this because of the pain that I've been through, or am I doing this because he's the person that I'm trying to be in a relationship with is trying to actually bring this out of me, or he's actually that. To me, I just have to see things through. So I'm learning to like, hey, this is a trigger. This is not a red flag. This is a trigger. So just disconnecting that.
Shad, how have you dealt with that?
I think people, and I've gotten really good at. I can say like I've been really good at this. People have to be okay with being by themselves. When you're by yourself, you have time to heal. You can do your therapy, you can, rediscover yourself, things like that. But I think when you leave a traumatic relationship, you do need time to heal. And there's no time limit on it. So for some, it might take a week. You might be good in a week. For some, it might take you 3 years. Like however long it takes you, like you need to take that time and do some healing before you jump into your next thing. Because if you do that, like, you're going to keep carrying this extra baggage, and then it's going to come up.
Also, forgiveness.
That's it.
Like
Yep.
forgiveness for yourself, not the person themselves. Like forgiveness for yourself. Like I think a lot of us put that weight on us that the past relationship didn't work out because of this and that, and so you're bringing it to the other one, and you haven't forgiven yourself. So how can you give that grace to somebody else if you haven't forgiven yourself?
I think forgiving both, to be honest, because again, like you can forgive yourself, but then like letting go of that person, I feel like that's part of just like leaving that relationship in the past. One thing that when our conversations, you do very well. You always say like you don't leave relationships in a bad space, and everyone doesn't have that luxury. Everyone can't like end a relationship and still be on cordial terms. A lot of times, like sometimes people are in just very tumultuous relationships, and when they get out, it's like, thank God, like it could be an abusive relationship or something like that. But again,
I ain't saying you got to end abusive relationships cordially.
No.
I just never been in one
I'm
of
just
those.
giving an example, like. So like when you leave those type of relationships where it's just a very just like tumultuous thing, I feel like again you need to do some healing, therapy, again like doing different things that you need to do in order to like get yourself back right, get yourself back to like normal, stable levels.
Because when you do that, you don't bring a lot of triggers in your like next relationship, or a lot of spiritual madness into the relationship, into your new relationship. So you're able to start in a clear view, and you don't have enough red flags. Because I've noticed that I was doing a lot of red flags that would put me to run, but I wasn't even thinking of like the green flags, like, oh, yo, this person does this too.
Word.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yep.
like,
you become blind to
yeah,
it.
you
Because
become
all you're
completely
looking for
You
is
search for
red.
them.
Yeah, exactly.
It's self-sabotage.
Yeah,
You
it really is.
I used to
Yep.
practice the same thing. I'd be like, oh, what? You fold your shirts like that? No, I can't do it. Can't do it, son. Because if we live together and then I fold my shirts like this and you fold your shirts like that, it just don't work like that. But I like what you said about starting to understand whether or not something is a trigger or a red flag. And what that kind of boiled down to me was like, at least in the beginning, don't take it personal, right? If someone has a certain toxic trait, don't take it personally. Step back and evaluate it. So like what you were talking about being overbearing. You mean it from a good place, right? It's coming from a good place. I want you to do what you told me you wanted to do. Like, you want this. Like, I'm trying to help you get it. In the moment, that person could take that very personally, like, yo, why is this motherfucker on my back like this? Like, why is he beating me down? Like, I thought he loved me. Or, you know what I mean? But you have to be able to detach from that and be like, okay, why is he doing this? You know what I mean? What is the root? Like you said, what is the root of where this is coming from? Is it personal? I didn't take it personal at first, but now that I'm looking at it, I'm like, no, you knew that I didn't like that. Yeah. You knew that that would affect me negatively, but you still went on ahead and did it. So now you have that right, like, okay, I'm all right, we're going to deal with this, you know, how we supposed to move forward amicably. But if it's not something that was meant to harm you, if they didn't do it in a way that was meant to harm you, you can then approach that conversation differently. So it doesn't have to be, I feel like some relationships have more toxicity in them than they even need to have. Yeah. Because you're not able, both of you, not just one person, both of you are not able to just kind of look at things from an overall standpoint and really just pinpoint, like, okay, what is this, right? Kind of like how we talked about with feelings. Why am I feeling this way? Yeah. You know, journaling is a good thing. Like, write it down. Mm-hmm. You know, when you write something down, you have to really analyze it. So it's like, okay, all right, he canceled plans with me to go to the movies so he could go see his mom. I was pissed in the moment because I really wanted to go to the movies, but his mom is in the hospital.
So I do that.
All right, exactly. So why did I take that personally, right? And even if you do, like, even if you want to, I know some people that are like, they're quick reactors. Yeah. Like me, I'm not a quick reactor. Like, if you piss me off, like, it's going to take me like a couple days to like really process. I'm not like right back into it. Even if you are one of those people, understand that you have to go back and look at why you reacted that way. Yeah. Because 9 times out of 10, I truly believe that like 8 times out of 10, a person did not do something to you in spite of you. They might not even have known how you were going to feel when they did it. Exactly. In their mind, it seemed normal. Yeah. My friends just got last minute tickets to a playoff game. I'm sorry, I got to cancel dinner, babe, but this is really important. To them, it sounds logical. Yeah. To you, it's like, dang, you're going to just disrespect my dinner plans? I made this reservation. Like, to you, it's like the end. Yeah, it's like the end of the world. Now, it might not have been a great decision, but if you step back and kind of think through it, you might be able to talk about it better. Yeah. You know what I mean? So that maybe it doesn't happen again in the future, or if it does, there's better communication around it. So I do think a lot of relationships have more toxicity in them.
The intention in the communication. So you have to sit back, like you said, journal and write back, like, okay, this made me feel like this. Why did it make me feel like this? Okay, so now when I communicate to my partner, I'm going to let them know, hey, I'm not sure what was your intention, but this is how it made me feel. These 2 things I felt. So can you explain to me what was your intention? Because I don't want to assume. Because that's what we do a lot in relationships. We assume that they know you because they love you, but that's not true.
People are not mind readers. People are not mind readers. And honestly, you can allow things to fester that should have never even been a wound in the first place. That communication piece and that intention, I love that, because there has to be meaning behind what you're doing. And I feel like relationships in general have to be super intentional. I'm very big on that. I would never hop into a relationship just because I want to be with somebody. Yeah. There has to be an intention behind it. I have to actively love you, not just love you. I have to actively want to seek to know who you are, like better understand you, because you're growing every day. You're changing every day. I have to seek to want to know, okay, who's Nataly 1211, who's Nataly 1212. Like, every day you're changing, you're having new experiences, you're becoming a different person. And I have to want to be able to know those things. So Shad, I would ask you, what advice could you give to someone who's maybe in I'm not gonna say like abusive level toxic relationship, but they're in a toxic relationship right now, but they want to see it through.
They want to see it through.
Mm-hmm. And there is actual potential, not like they're living in fantasy land.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously like the buzzword for this for this for today is just like communication. Like you gotta talk to your partner, talk to whomever it is, about how it is you're feeling about this trait that they're exhibiting. And if they're able to kind of have an open dialogue about that and really understand where you're coming from, I feel like you're on the right path. From there, it may be something where, you have check-ins with that person. Like you check in, say if it's your partner, you check in with them every 2 weeks. Babe, how am I doing with X, Y, and Z? And get a gauge of how your growth, get a gauge on your growth and how you're doing in regards to that. Maybe it's therapy. Maybe it's something that you guys go to and sit down with a professional and kind of talk through some of the things that you guys are dealing with in your relationship. I know therapy is a very touchy thing. Like I feel like therapy is becoming more of an accepted thing nowadays. But I feel like in the past, like it was like, I'm not going to no damn therapy. Like
Not
what
crazy.
for? Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But I think again, if you think of therapy as a space where you're able to communicate without anyone feeling any type of way, and you have someone who's able to give you some educated advice on different strategies and things to use in bettering your relationship, I feel like it can be very beneficial. So those are just two things I feel like one of those things you can do on your own, and then the other thing is something that you can take outside and kind of like get advice from someone to help, grow or build your relationship and get better. But in the grand scheme of things, I'm going to say this, I want it to be understood. If a habit is not changing, you need to take it upon yourself to change it. Whatever that may mean, whether it's stepping away from the relationship, getting out, whatever it is, the toxic behavior is toxic because it's repeatable. It's at a toxic level because it's happening over and over and over again. If your partner is constantly canceling dinner plans and going to this place and going in that place and not committing to what it is you guys are planned ahead of time, that is toxic behavior. Yeah. Communicate with that person. If they're not changing it, if it affects you that bad where it's putting you in a negative space and you can't be your best self, what now? You got to take it into your hands. What are you gonna do to live? Because I'm big on peace of mind for me is, bro. Peace of mind for me is like the most paramount thing. Like if you start messing with my peace of mind, I can't deal with you. I can't deal with you. So for anyone else, like if you're working through a problem and it's getting to the point where it's starting to sabotage your well-being, your spirit, your physical health, all those things, you might have to just step away and be okay with that. It's nothing wrong with stepping away. You're not a failure. You're not a runner or nothing like that. You got to do what's best for you. And that's the thing, like, because there are people who will bash you for running away from I hate the word running, but stepping away from a relationship because the shit is not sitting right with your spirit, and it's not you're not yourself. You feel you're not yourself, and you're trying to work things. You're forcing it. Yeah, like nah, like if I gotta step away, I'm cool on it. Yeah. I'm cool on it. So don't do what's best for you, but you got to be real with yourself and say to yourself like, what am I contributing to this relationship to make it toxic? If you've done all the work and you feel like okay, like I'm good, it's just this person who is not really kind of meeting my expectations and needs and things like that, you got to do what you got to do. So,
Nataly, I would ask you your piece of advice you could give to someone to work on their own toxic nature. So separate of the relationship, what advice could you give someone to kind of, put down the track spikes and retire from that running career?
I mean, you have to understand that it's not, you're going from relationship to relationship. It might not be them. It might be you. So trying to understand what is it that I fail in every single relationship? What do I need to work on? Because I am being the toxic one by running. Let me see what I need to do to change. So my advice is just like sit down and really get to learn yourself in every single relationship. What is it that you brought? Like, what is the peace of mind that you bring to this relationship or the past relationship? Or what is it, the toxicity that you brought in that relationship? And how can I move forward without bringing any of that? So yeah, just get to learn yourself. That's my big one.
My advice is going to be for the people who are similar to me, who don't even have track spikes because they don't go to the track meet. They don't even try to get in relationships to begin with. And this is something I'm working through. Is being, I'm a person who does not do well when I see flaws in others that they don't want to change. I don't do good with that. When you were talking about how you've gotten better with giving people criticism, man, when I was in college, I would shred your ass if you didn't like live up to a standard that I had or that you set for yourself in my mind. Like I was super bad about it. Like I've gotten better now, hence why I can even have a podcast and like help people and like kind of have these kind of conversations. And that's why I started this, so it could be something that people can see. But I'm working on being more accepting of people's flaws. I'm cool with a flaw. To me, a flaw is not a red flag. We all have flaws. I'm getting better at accepting other people's flaws and not, canceling my plans to go to the track meet just because they have it. So my advice for people who are like me, who are more so like standoffish when it comes to like relationships and stuff and thrive and love being alone, they don't hate it, they love being alone, is just try to be more accepting of other people's flaws. Understand that you yourself have your own, right? So I've had a lot of good quality time to spend on my toxicity and just kind of work through that. But just understand that relationships are intentional and that they are a process. I think a lot of us, especially marriage, I think marriage specifically has this stigma where it's like once you sign the paper, the work's done. I did everything I had to do. I got on a knee, I gave you a ring, and now you're locked in. You're gonna do the whatever, I'm gonna do this, and we straight. But no, I feel like honestly that's where the work begins. There has to be intention behind it. There has to be, movement in that area. And then to further drill in that point, like you said, it's okay if it doesn't work. It's okay to step away from something if it doesn't work out. That's another thing that people like who are, if you're similar to me, you don't get into it because you know it could potentially end. You don't want to face the end portion, so you're like, let's just not start that. You have to understand that not every relationship is going to see itself 30, 40 years. Not every relationship is going to see itself 3 years. Yeah. But just be open to understanding that people have flaws, you have flaws, and just be vulnerable sometimes, man.
Yeah, people are sent for a reason. You're supposed to grow in every single... Definitely. You're supposed to grow, like in every relationship. I think we all feel like put that stigma on ourselves, like, oh, this didn't work out. What did I do wrong? No, what is it that I need to learn from it? Like, there's a lot of things that you need to learn from yourself in a relationship.
That's true. That's going to do it for this episode of the Raw Daddy Hour. Grandma, you've been hanging in there, man. Appreciate you. Want to say thank you to my guests for coming on. I really appreciate you guys. This episode, once again, was sponsored by Glass Block Express. If you're in the Detroit area and you need that glass block done, hit them up. What are you waiting for? We out of here.